Today on People Now, remembering Luke Perry as tributes pour in for the late actor from fans around the world and the people who knew him best.
New Leaving Neverland bombshells in part 2 of the doc accusing Michael Jackson of sexual abuse.
I don't know if I'm just tired, but I feel like I'm gonna cry.
Why is Brie Larson holding back the tears at the premiere for Captain Marvel?
Also today,
the first 3 boyfriends I had, I was physically abusive to them.
Queer Eye star Karamo Brown opens up about dealing with his abusive past and also weighs in on that Anthony, Kate Beckinsale, Pete Davidson PDA moment that blew up the internet.
Plus, Teddy Mellencamp is here with all the juice from tonight's episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
It's live today on People Now.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to People Now. Great to see you. Good to see you, Andrea Boehlke.
What's up?
How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Big Bachelor night last night.
The moment that we've been teasing and waiting for the entire season, spoiler alert, Colton jumped the fence on The Bachelor. The poor guy's so heartbroken when Cassie sent herself home. He couldn't take it anymore, guys.
I
Needed some time.
feel bad. I mean, I feel really bad for him, but Cassie
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
His heart was broken. He was shaking. I mean, Cassie chose to walk away after her dad flew to Portugal to give her some advice. We want to know your thoughts on all of this. So if her dad hadn't shown up, would she still have left the show? Vote in our People poll or just tweet us your answer with the hashtag #PeopleNow.
We're going to check in on your answers and break down last night's episode in a little bit. But for now, here's what you need to know and what's trending today. Starting here on a more serious note, a source tells People that Luke Perry's 18-year-old daughter, Sophie, rushed to Los Angeles from Africa to be by her father's side when he initially fell ill. Perry died Monday from complications of a stroke that he had suffered 5 days earlier. On February 27th, Sophie posted a photo from her time in Malawi, captioned, "It's been a month and Malawi has gifted me with so much joy, beauty, and malaria. Wouldn't trade it." Perry's daughter often shared pictures of herself and her dad on Instagram that showcased their close bond, including this pic of their matching footwear. Sophie writes, "My old man and I are truly such fashion icons. I mean, come on." This sweet one as well from her prom, where Perry, as a proud dad, is giving her a kiss on the cheek. Very sweet moment there. Sophie was born to Perry and his ex-wife, Minnie Sharp, in 2000. Perry and Sharp also share a son, Jack, who was born 3 years earlier. In a statement to People, Perry's former 90210 co-star and longtime friend Shannon Doherty said that Perry's greatest accomplishment was his children and that they were his heart. Both children were by his side at the time of his death, as well as his ex-wife and Perry's fiancée, Wendy Madison Bauer. He was 52 years old. We'll have more on the many tributes and reactions to Luke Perry's death later on in our show. Stick around for that. All right, guys, the Jonas Brothers are back. They are making the rounds. The trio stopped by the Late Late Show with James Corden on Monday, and they explained how a documentary influenced their decision to get the band back together. Watch this.
The documentary tracks kind of just our childhood into our time with the band, and it was going to be a story about where we are today, and that was separate lives, doing separate things. Joe with DNCE, me with my solo stuff. And during that time, you know, we started to realize there was a magic that we felt like we were missing, and you know, so the process was basically just, why don't we give this a shot? We started playing a little music together and realized right away this is where we're meant to be in our lives at this moment.
Fans are here for it. Before the group decided to officially reunite, Nick Jonas says he and his famous siblings had to work through some issues that originally caused the band to go their separate ways. They spent a year doing therapy to get back on the same page, with Nick adding, "We've had to be really open and honest. There are things in the past that bothered us from time to time, even in our performances that we would do." Well, all that came flashing back to Nick when the guys recently performed their first show back together. Nick says that he was so paranoid the first few songs that he couldn't really even enjoy it, all because he was worried that his brothers would be mad at him. But then he kind of snapped out of it. He said, quote, "At a certain point, I looked at them and thought, this is amazing. I'm going to have the best time ever." And we did. The Jonas Brothers released Sucker on March 1st, their first new song in nearly 6 years. Man, this thing is catchy. It's basically been on repeat somewhere in this office since the moment it dropped. The group first snagged a record deal back in 2005. They went on to release 4 full-length albums. They catapulted to fame thanks to a slew of Disney Channel originals. But the brothers officially disbanded in 2013 as they were prepping to release their 5th LP. After the split, both Nick and Joe pursued solo careers, which we know and love, while Kevin successfully got into real estate development. Now they're doing their thing. More on them on People.com. All right, The Bachelor's Colton Underwood is over the fence about the fantasy suite. Say-o, literally over that fence.
Nice.
Throughout this season of The Bachelor, TAYSHIA and Hannah G have expressed their feelings towards Colton, while Cassie kind of held back. Colton admitted that was a bit of a red flag, but he also felt that their chemistry was undeniable. Spoiler alert from this point on, guys. In a major OMG moment, Cassie's father surprises her in Portugal. He just decided to come there at exactly the right time. He essentially convinces Cassie that she isn't in love with Colton. Now, to recap, during hometowns, Cassie's father did not exactly give Colton his blessing for marriage. When Colton revealed that information to Cassie on their date in Portugal, she was clearly caught off guard, telling him she left hometowns thinking that her family trusted her to make the right decision. This information only added to Cassie's confusion about her truest feelings towards Colton. Well, later on, what Colton expected to be a romantic evening, and who knows how that was going to end in the fantasy suite, well, it all went wrong when Cassie ultimately decided to break up with him and leave the show. Colton freaked out, and then this happened.
Colton. He just jumped the fence.
Chris Harrison's so upset that they called him out of his hotel room or whatever to go track down Colton. In an exclusive interview with Good Morning America on Tuesday, Colton opened up about the now infamous fence jump that we've seen for months, where he explained how he had to get away amid Cassie, who he claimed was the one for him, leaving the show. He admitted that he needed time away from everything. Watch this.
In that moment, after I jumped the fence, I didn't know. That's why I jumped the fence. I just needed time to myself. I needed to get away, just figure things out and try to figure things out.
Oh my goodness, there's so much more than this to unpack from Monday night's episode. We are going to break it all down for you during our Bachelor recap. That's a little later in the show. Stay tuned for that. We've got opinions, everybody.
We do.
And anticipation for what's next. But first, Andrea, more for us in Star Trek.
Yes, we are kicking off Star Trek today with a much-needed girls' night out. The Kardashians and Jenners have been a huge topic of conversation in the last couple weeks, with one cheating scandal after another. But it looks like Khloé and Kylie are staying strong and skating on, like literally skating on. The Kar-Jenner clan got together for a night at the roller rink on Monday to attend Kylie's friend and assistant Victoria's surprise party. Now, Khloé has had a rough couple of weeks amid rumors that her then boyfriend and father of her child, Tristan Thompson, got cozy with Kylie's best friend, Jordyn Woods. Jordyn then moved out of Kylie's house, and then there were rumors that Kylie's boyfriend, Travis Scott, was also cheating. Can you keep up? It's hard, but despite all of the drama, it honestly looks like everyone really let their troubles go and had a blast at this party. Khloé documented the festivities on her Instagram. You can spot Kendall, Kourtney, and Kylie letting loose on the rink, along with Khloé's best friend, Malika. Now, it looks like Khloé may not have laced up any skates herself, but hey, maybe she was the designated photographer for the night. She still had fun. There was one especially sweet moment between Kendall, Kylie, and Kourtney at one point during the night as they skated hand in hand until Kylie broke off to skate around a few other people also in attendance. One of those people was Kylie's friend Stassi, which makes things a little awkward because Stassi is also friends with Jordyn. Bum, bum, bum. Jordyn is also friends with Victoria, whose party it was. So it seems like Jordyn may not have been invited. I don't know. We didn't spot her in any of the photos or videos, at least. Look, the situation is tough for all parties involved. We're glad to see Kylie and Khloé having a good time. Also, really wants me to go and hang out at a skating rink.
Bring
Haven't done that in a long
skating back.
time.
No, right.
Right? It's nostalgia. All right, moving on to this. Karl Lagerfeld had a fashionable farewell at the fall 2019 Chanel show in Paris on Tuesday that left models in tears. The brand's fall-winter 2019 fashion show took place at the Grand Palais in Paris, featuring a set decorated as a glamorous winter ski wonderland and filled with touching tributes to the brand's late designer, who died on February 19th at the age of 85. On each attendee's seat, a note was placed featuring a sketch of Lagerfeld and Chanel's founder, Coco Chanel, with the words, "The beat goes on." Lagerfeld himself drew the sketch. Now, insiders say a minute of silence was observed before the show began. Now, many of Lagerfeld's muses walked the runway, including Cara Delevingne and Kaya Gerber, wearing a winter-ready suit and a snowball dress from his final collection. They look amazing here. Penelope Cruz, who usually sits on the sidelines, unexpectedly walked the show as well. Now, she wore a snowball-like dress with a feathery bubble skirt. She carried a white rose. Many of Lagerfeld's famous friends and fashion insiders also came out for the emotional tribute. Kristen Stewart, Janelle Monáe, Marion Cotillard, and Vogue editor Anna Wintour could all be seen in the front row. Now, during the finale, models walked the runway to the song Heroes by David Bowie, noticeably moved, even crying as the crowd gave the collection and Lagerfeld a standing ovation. Such an amazing and touching moment. And those are your Star Tracks for today.
Stay with us, guys. Catching up with the stars of Captain Marvel at last night's world premiere in Hollywood. Can't wait for this. See what Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson had to say. Plus, Queer Eye's Karamo Brown has a brand new book, and he's revealing some bombshells in that book and to us. Stick around for that in just a little bit.
All right, let's check in on our People poll. On last night's episode of The Bachelor, Cassie left when her dad made a surprise visit to the show all the way to Portugal. That's dedication.
Suddenly made the trip just at the right time.
We've been asking whether or not you think she would have left if her dad hadn't come.
So what do you guys think?
It's a tricky question.
No,
okay, so it's pretty close, though.
I think you pushed her over the edge. I agree with that. I think she was already questioning it, and that kind of took her.
Definitely pushed it over the edge.
Yeah, we'll discuss all that, but keep voting in our People poll. Now we move on to this.
Part 2 of Leaving Neverland aired Monday night. This doc is getting a lot of buzz, very hard to watch. As you probably know by now, the doc features Wade Robson and James Safechuck, who accuse Michael Jackson of molesting them when they were just children.
So Part 2 explained the backstory to why the pair came forward initially in 2013, filing lawsuits against the estate. They denied allegations in the past, and then they explained how the alleged abuse affected them as they grew older and they began to start their own families.
Yeah, Robson claims the abuse lasted over a 7-year period starting in 1990. So not sure if people know this, but one of the men, Wade Robson, as you were mentioning, is an award-winning choreographer. He came to know Jackson when he was just a kid. He was discovered by Michael Jackson.
So here's a little bit about who he is. By 4 years old, Robson knew all of Michael Jackson's famous dance moves. When he was 5 years old, he won a national Jackson dance impersonation contest in his native Australia. The grand prize for that was meeting Michael Jackson. And then MJ signed Robson to his private label. Jackson cast him in several of his music videos, including 1991's Black or White. So it was a huge splash for him out of the gate.
And Robson's gone on to have a very successful career. He had a huge part in NSYNC's early success. So he created signature moves for the boy band in the late 90s and early 2000s. He was the man behind their dance routines for their No Strings Attached tour in 2000. He co-wrote 4 songs with NSYNC's leading man Justin Timberlake on the band's 2001 album Celebrity. And he filled in for an injured Joey Fatone as his dancing double in the music video for Pop.
So much stuff with NSYNC. And remember this moment when Britney Spears strutted on stage at the 2001 MTV Video Music Awards, that python around her neck. This became an iconic moment through the years. Guess what? It was Robson's idea. He began working with Britney when he was only 16 years old after he was hired to choreograph her first big U.S. tour. That was in 1999.
He was also a familiar face on several dancing competition shows. He appeared as a choreographer, performer, and guest judge on So You Think You Can Dance. He has 2 Emmys for outstanding choreography from the show. And in 2007, Robson choreographed and performed a special performance for Dancing with the Stars.
So he stepped away from dancing for 5 years. Then Robson returned to teaching dance in 2017. Now, he claimed that Michael Jackson was the reason he initially left the entertainment industry.
Yeah, since the doc has been making headlines, Jackson's 2005 molestation trial has been coming up as well. The interesting piece here is Safechuck and Robson were involved in that trial, but Wade Robson actually defended Jackson at the trial, and Safechuck did not, but supported Jackson to authorities.
Yeah, there's a lot to kind of break down on that trial. So here we go. That trial happened after a 2003 documentary called Living with Michael Jackson was released. It focused on a boy named Gavin who met the pop star while battling cancer. In that documentary, Gavin alleges that he was abused by Michael Jackson.
Now, after searching his Neverland ranch in November 2003, investigators arrested Jackson on child molestation charges. Jackson was released on $3 million bail and was charged on 7 counts of child molestation and 2 counts of administering an intoxicating agent for the purpose of committing a felony. Now, the singer pleaded not guilty to all charges. That trial lasted 14 weeks.
Yeah, it was quite the ordeal. And the boy, Gavin, along with his younger brother and mother, testified against Michael Jackson. Jackson's lawyers were able to poke holes in the family's testimonies.
And child star Macaulay Culkin also testified on the singer's behalf. A not guilty verdict was handed down on June 13th, 2005. Had Jackson been found guilty, he could have faced up to 20 years in prison.
So the question, why are the men coming forward now? Well, Robson has said in interviews that he came forward now because he is a dad. And documentary producers say neither Robson or Safechuck were paid for their appearances in the stock. There's a lot to this, guys. You can find out more on people.com.
All right, we are continuing our coverage of Luke Perry's death. Very sad here. So many reactions out of Hollywood and all over for those who remember Perry as a genuine, kind-hearted, and talented actor.
Yeah, many people remembering him as their first crush from his stint on 90210, the heartthrob Dylan McKay, of course.
Yeah, Olivia Munn, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Ingrid Michaelson all sharing on social media how Luke's creation of Dylan shaped their teenage years. I mean, he was such a memorable character, such a heartthrob there.
His 90210 co-stars also paying tribute. Jenny Garth, Tori Spelling, Shannon Doherty all released statements to People.
Yeah, Garth said her heart was broken, and Spelling said she was in utter shock. She recalls Perry as one of the kindest and most humble human beings she's ever known. And she added he was like family to her, a brother and a protector.
So like we mentioned earlier, Shannon Doherty said that Perry's children were his biggest accomplishment. She said they were his heart, and that part of it just becomes more and more heartbreaking as you consider, those kids losing their dad.
Yeah, and some of his younger fans will remember him as Fred Andrews on the hit series Riverdale, where the cast and crew remember him as a true mentor.
Riverdale co-star Lili Reinhart penned this poem, an emotional poem, to Luke Perry on Instagram on her story. She said in part, "When someone you love gets taken from you and the small circumferences surrounding you is stuck, frozen in a moment of loss and shock, yet the people passing you are moving at full speed. Did they not feel the earth shake?" So she was very poetic and sort of a heartfelt tribute to him.
Yeah, very beautiful. And here to help us remember the late actor is People senior editor Jillian Telling. Jillian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for being here. Let's begin with this Shannon Doherty statement. In her statement to People, remembering Luke Perry, she said this about their bond, quote, "There's a special kind of love one has for each other when you are experiencing the journey that we did on 90210, of course, life in general." How close was this cast really, especially when it comes to Shannon Doherty and Luke Perry?
They were incredibly close. They were like brother and sister. You have to remember these guys came out of nowhere, right? In 1990, all of a sudden, they are huge celebrities. They can't go anywhere without being mobbed. So, that bond was with them for life. Later, when they would see each other, they always had that commonality.
Kind of rose to fame together.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, this news is really sending shockwaves through Hollywood. What are you noticing the most about the tributes?
Everyone says the same thing. I mean, this guy was so humble and down to earth. And, the stories that they're sharing about him, the things he did on the plane. Did you read the thing about Colin Hanks?
Right,
Which
yeah.
was
Yeah.
great.
Well, you also have some tributes from his hometowns, right?
Yes, his hometown friends all say the same thing. He was very humble. He would help the neighbors change their light bulbs, take out their trash. He would help out if there was flooding. He just wasn't ever a big celebrity with a big ego.
Hometown in Ohio, right?
Yeah,
Actually,
Fredericktown.
I have some friends near there whose kids go to a school that he had gone to and said that the school sent out a notice to the people that go to that school saying, paying tribute to him, saying someone close to us has died.
Yeah,
So really,
hometown hero.
he really was. And Soleil Moonfry actually posted on Instagram about a plane incident where the two apparently shared a pretty scary flight. Tell us about this scary flight. What happened?
We don't know exactly what happened. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. But, it sounds like something scary went down on a tiny little plane, which it can do. And he was just her rock and her solid friend. They were really good friends.
Yeah.
They maybe dated back in the day.
Okay, yeah.
Well, you also mentioned another plane thing. He has a lot of plane stories.
Yeah.
Something that Colin Hanks posted.
This is a great story. So Colin Hanks was on a flight with these two kids who were being really rowdy and crying. And all of a sudden, this guy comes back and hands these crazy kids 2 balloons and calms them down. And he said the whole plane practically cheered. And that was Luke Perry. And Luke Perry said, "I always travel with balloons in case this happens with crying kids," which is just like an incredible story.
Yeah, the really great personal stories. What I feel, and I think what I've noticed a lot of people feeling, is this real sense of shock about this. For some reason, this hit home. What do you make of that? And the reaction that you felt personally and that people around the office and then broadly have felt about
I'm
Luke
shocked.
Perry's
I mean,
passing?
it still feels surreal. He was really young, and it also came out of the blue. It wasn't like he was sick, or had problems that we knew about. And he was like a lot of people's first crushes. He was definitely mine. I went back and forth between him and Brandon, but Dylan always won out because of that Porsche.
That's what I mean. There's things like that really connect, even now.
How do you think it's going to be for the cast of Riverdale as they try to rally around and have support for everyone? Because, as you see the tributes from the Riverdale cast, it seems like it's going to be very difficult to kind of move forward.
I mean, I'm sure they're young. I'm sure it's very shocking for them to lose somebody so suddenly. They shut down production while they figure it out, while they take time to mourn. But, you know, I'm sure the show will go on.
Yeah.
I correspond with Casey Cott every now and then and know him, and who's on Riverdale, and he had just said yesterday it's really tough, and a couple days ago that they had all just been kind of hanging out watching basketball together not too long ago. So this is something that undoubtedly will hit home for that cast as well.
Yeah, people, Jenny Garth, Tori Spelling had just been texting with him. Shannon Doherty had lunch with him, you know, in early February. So just really, really shocking.
Yeah, Jillian, thank you so much for your insight. Thanks for being here, for helping us remember Luke Perry. And you can remember more on people.com. I was like watching the clip and forgot that we had to talk.
So, Skrulls are the bad guys. And you're a Kree, a race of noble warriors.
Heroes. Noble warrior heroes.
This gets pretty intense.
I know, it does. The stars of Captain Marvel hit the red carpet on Monday night for the movie's world premiere in Hollywood. Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson were there, of course. Now, Brie plays pilot-turned-superhero Carol Danvers, while Samuel L. is back at it as Nick Fury, the future director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I saw this last night. Love seeing him back at it. She does a great job, too. They were joined by Gemma Chan, Ben Mendelsohn, and so many more. Look at them all dressed to the nines, loving the event, looking great. For even more red carpet and film coverage, guys, you can go to marvel.com.
I'm so excited to see this. Now, we caught up with Brie Larson on the red carpet, and for her, it's actually very emotional now that the world is finally getting to see all of the cast's hard work.
I don't know if I'm just tired, but I feel like I'm gonna cry.
Let it out, girl.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years of working on this movie. I mean, Carol changed my life, and this movie hasn't even come out yet. Just in particular, getting strong and learning how to stand my ground and own myself and value my voice. Those are things that I learned from her. I've been very open about the fact that I'm an introvert, I have asthma, and I was able to push myself further than I ever thought possible. I'm excited to share her with the world.
You can tell this really meant a lot to Brie Larson. One major component of Carol's story is her past as an officer in the U.S. Air Force. For those scenes, Brie actually trained extensively with the actual Air Force and learned a lot about herself in the process.
It was a game changer for me because I had read the comics and Carol's fierceness and her wit, and also despite her being at times cocky, her humbleness too, all I thought was her. And then when I went to the Air Force, I realized that that's the spirit of the Air Force inside of her.
I mean, we love her, but meanwhile, we've seen Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury in Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, Infinity War, and more.
Yeah, he knows the character well, and he's reunited in Captain Marvel with Clark Gregg. We all know him as Agent Phil Coulson, who's back in his first movie since that character died a heroic death in 2012's The Avengers. Kind of helps that Captain Marvel actually takes place in 1995. We don't ever have to really say goodbye, everyone.
Now, we caught up with them on the red carpet to get their take on the evolution of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Take a look.
It's been a pretty amazing ride. I mean, I don't know, you start out the beginning in Iron Man, you'd be insane if you tried to picture it becoming this giant a story. And yet they've just done it so well so many times.
Yeah, you watch the evolution of the stories is really great. From the simplicity, sort of Iron Man to the complexity of, Infinity Wars and now, this and everything else, so it's great.
If he has a big smile tomorrow morning, I think you kind of guess why.
I've been waiting forever for this moment. I'm going to Fantasy Suites. I'm ready to take the next step with somebody who I'm madly in love with. It'll be caring, it'll be passionate.
Oh.
And it'll be something that I will remember forever.
Could this actually be the most dramatic episode of The Bachelor ever?
Might be.
It's up there, no doubt. Here to break down all the highlights is People writer and reporter Jody Guglielmi and Bachelor alum herself, Melissa Rycroft. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks,
Great to
ladies.
see you. This week, Fantasy Suites Week. Bachelor has played up Colton's virginity. We've heard about it a time or two. What do you think is going through Colton's mind as he's gearing up for this week? What's the anticipation? We'll start with you, Melissa.
I think he's putting too much pressure on himself, on top of the fact that the entire world, of course, knows what is expected in these fantasy suites. Like you said, yeah, I think he may be a virgin. I'm not quite sure. It's been the theme of the season, so of course they had to play it up last night, right?
Yeah, Jody, what do you think?
I was excited for tonight because I'm kind of done hearing about his virginity. So I was like, let's do the fantasy suites. We'll see what happens. But I was almost ready to be done with the virgin joke. So I was hopeful that this would be the last episode.
I know, I was cringing when he was doing the virgin jokes. I think that's all just like he knows the producer wants them, so they include it.
It's almost like it was so much on his mind it actually came through at that point.
Melissa, you went through this on your season of The Bachelor. I mean, how are the ladies feeling going into this week? Because there's some pressure there as well.
Yeah, there's definitely pressure, you know, and I think, you know, my bachelor was not a virgin, so I'm not quite sure what he was. But for them, they were, I mean, I think TAYSHIA made it very clear she wanted to be the one to take it from him that night. So it's weird actually watching the women kind of compete and see who's going to get it, who's going to win. I thought it was a little awkward, to be honest.
It was awkward.
Agree.
He was sheepish. I thought he was very sheepish.
There is the question of who's going to take it from him. Oh, it was weird. So Colton and the remaining women head to Portugal. TAYSHIA scores the first date. I mean, those two have had chemistry from the start. I thought they were both really giddy. I mean, what were your thoughts on their date, Jody?
I think they have great chemistry together. They seem to get along really well. They laugh together really easily. So I think that it was just another example of how close they are. I personally, I don't know. I see it more as like a friendship a little bit, but I mean, either way, they enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, maybe I almost feel like it's a friendship too because I just picture her as the next Bachelorette. It just feels like that to me. I don't know. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree all around. I think I love her. I think she's gotten a great edit to where as the audience, you do really like her. But I think we've seen the last 2 weeks how excited Colton has gotten when he sees Cassie and how he lights up. And I think we saw last night he didn't have that with TAYSHIA.
Yeah, she was much more excited, I think.
Yeah, also a true contestant when you talk about the edit, because we know, like, edit.
Yeah.
They spend the night together, but spoiler, Colton did not lose his virginity to TAYSHIA. She seemed a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's mentioned in the past he wants his first time to be with the one. Now, TAYSHIA's first reaction to the camera the morning after was, it was interesting. What does that mean?
Not exactly what you want. Right?
Jody?
No, I mean, no, that's not what you want. And it's certainly not what she wanted. I think maybe it just meant that, I think maybe because she wanted something more and he didn't give it to her, it was interesting in that respect. Or maybe they had like a weird conversation, but interesting is never a really good thing.
Yeah, let's talk about Cassie. So we have so much to unpack here, so much. First of all, Colton point blank revealed he is in love with Cassie.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when it comes to Hannah G and TAYSHIA, I mean, they now know that he's not in love with them. So how are they supposed to move on knowing that he loves Cassie, right?
Well, right now they don't know that. They don't know that he has said this to Cassie. So they're still sitting in their hotel rooms thinking that they could very much so still be the one. So as viewers, we actually
at that moment, they didn't, but I'm just thinking about now, at this moment. Melissa, what do you make of that? It's hard to know how he moves on.
I mean, ouch. Well, first of all, I don't think poor little Hannah is even going to get an overnight. How does he even pretend to pack these feelings up and do, you know, a date with her? But yeah, I think let's just say the scenario is that he puts himself back together and picks either TAYSHIA or Hannah. They're watching this right now going, I was totally second pick, you know?
Yeah.
And that, none of us really know what's going to happen. That's probably worst case scenario.
You have to do a tremendous amount of backpedaling to recover from the words that were said in that very honest moment. Colton revealed to Cassie that her father didn't give his permission to marry Cassie during that whole hometown. Yeah. Cassie was visibly shocked and taken by all this. She hadn't really revealed those feelings to Colton at that point, but how did you feel about Cassie's reaction to that information from Colton? That it turned out to be kind of the fatal mistake. Melissa, what did you think?
See, I'm not sure that was the fatal mistake. I have kind of felt a big distance between Cassie towards Colton. You know, last week we saw him trying to get her to say how he feels and she couldn't. I think the dad was her way out. I think the fact that she found out her dad had an issue, she was like, okay, good. I can kind of use that as my crutch.
Gave her a reason.
Yeah. I really don't think Cassie was that into him ever. That's my take. I think she's just kind of there, and then she's like, oh my gosh, I'm in the final three.
Which in some ways makes sense that he would then be all about her because he probably sensed there's a little more of a challenge.
You want what you can't get sometimes. And I think maybe he liked, or, you know, he was attracted to the fact that she was a little bit more guarded. But I agree that I think her dad was just kind of the nail in the coffin. I think she was on her way out mentally, and her dad just pushed her the rest of the way.
That cat and mouse
Yeah,
game.
let's break this down a little bit. Cassie decided to eliminate herself. Wasn't easy, starts second-guessing herself. Colton tries to talk her out of it over and over again, reveals that he wants her to be at the end, says they don't have to get engaged right away. You can take time, whatever. I love you, the whole thing. Colton prematurely revealed that he wanted Cassie to be the one. How do you think Cassie deals? Was she actually torn, or was she more feeling sad and guilty that she was hurting Colton? That's kind of, my wife and I were watching it, was like, she just hates that he's hurt. Melissa, what do you think?
Okay, can I be like the snarky non-millennial that's gonna take everybody off? I look back now and go, Cassie played this perfectly. You know, if Tayshia was right a couple weeks ago when she was telling Colton, the whole house is thinking that Cassie and Kaylin are here for the wrong reasons. They're talking about being bachelorette, all the contacts and parties they're gonna go to after this. Well, you flash forward 2 weeks and Cassie just walked right into the scenario that everybody was talking about. And here she found herself going, oh my gosh, I didn't want him to fall in love with me. I wanted to make it far enough to where I had potential to move on, you know, bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, whatever, but I didn't want him to pick me. And she left and she looked silly because he was even saying, we don't have to get engaged.
And he's probably sounding like they were right this whole time.
I know. And Colton obviously did not take this very well. Led us to the moment we've all been waiting for, the fence jump. So let's take another look at this.
Colton. He just jumped the fence.
It finally happened. Jody, are his actions justified? What did you make of the fence jump?
I loved the fence jump. Very impressed by it. That's a tall fence, and he's in like regular pants, and he just jumped right over there with ease.
So athletic.
Yeah, but I loved it. I think, you know, he needed a minute. He needed a break. We all do sometimes, and his way of getting that was going over a fence.
All right, well, Tuesday night, the women tell all. What are some predictions that we have going into that conversation, ladies? So, Melissa, start with you.
I think I'm going to predict tears. Shock. We're going to see. I'd see Colton cry because he's done that a time or two. I think the fights with Demi are going to, obviously, you see Onyeka right now. You know, I think it just stirs up a lot of emotions. And can I say, I don't like Colton as much without the scruff. He looks so different in these clips, doesn't he?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. I'm going to say tears and claws. Lots of claws coming out, right?
From Debbie, probably. Is there like this feeling of you have to like get your word in? What is that like at the Women Tell All?
You know what? I've never been to the Women Tell All because I was filming Final 3 when they did Women Tell All, so usually the Final 3 don't. But yeah, I would imagine there's a lot of emotion, especially for the most recent girls eliminated, Kaylin and them. They're still not really over the breakup yet. They don't know what's going on with the season. And then, of course, these girls are watching it back live right now, and they're hearing girls talk about them in interviews, which just gets our blood boiling as women, right? So it's gonna be
nothing makes you more upset when you hear other people talk about you in a bad way. Right. That brings up all the emotions.
Yeah. All right, before you go, let's take another look at our Twitter poll. We asked our viewers if Cassie's dad had not shown up, we saw him there, he shows up to kind of talk her out of it, would she have still left? So the poll says no. Her dad persuaded her. That was the feeling among most people voting. But we
pushed it over the edge.
Pushed her over the edge.
Sure.
I kind of think that her dad pushed her over the edge. Had he not shown up, she would have stayed, but I don't think she was ever in a place to accept a proposal should it have gotten there.
Yeah, I agree.
All the time I was watching that, I was like, please let my girls respect my opinion as much as she respects her dad's.
Oh, I know.
Right? Like, not that a dad should force anything, but like, you know, respect the family. Anyway, there you go.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts. And to follow Colton's journey to find love, watch The Bachelor Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC and catch the Women Tell All special tonight. All right, moving on to this. So this week, People Now is having a double dose of Queer Eye, and nobody is complaining here. On Monday, we had fashion expert Tan France come by the show, and today we're spending a bit of time with culture expert Karamo Brown.
We got into a whole bunch of deep stuff with Karamo while discussing his new memoir. It is out today, but first we had to jump into the moment everyone's talking about when Karamo's Queer Eye co-host Anthony got caught up in a bit of a public PDA thing.
So Anthony was sitting next to Pete Davidson and Kate Beckinsale at a New York Rangers game. They were kissing. So check out what Karamo has to say about the mini makeout sesh, PDA, and you may even find out who Karamo's celebrity crush is. Watch.
I know that face of Anthony. He's so out of it all the time. He's always in his head thinking about stuff. Like, we have been next to him having like deep conversation, and then you'll turn to him and be like, Anthony, did you hear that? And he's like, no. So
this is his zone out face.
This is his zone out face. So like literally, he has no idea that Pete's doing that. I'm sure the first time he realized that was the minute that he saw the meme.
That's so funny.
And then he probably zoned out again to think like, what was I thinking about? I missed that. Like, I know him. Just layered, zoned out.
We'd always love to get your opinion on everything, especially lifestyle oriented. What is your take on PDA in general?
I'm okay with light kisses. I like light holding hands. I think when we get to the place of like tongue kissing and all that stuff, I think it just is way too much. Personally, I'm not for it. You know what I mean? Like if I was there, I'm not Anthony, I would have been in tune and I would have been like, Pete and I are friends as well. I'd have been like, hey, you did this public thing once and it didn't work. Let's maybe try something new, because the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So last time you did all this public PDA and all this extra stuff, unfortunately, you found yourself in a space where you were not happy and you were single. So before you do that again with this woman, let's try something different.
Yeah, it's really true.
And Kate Beckinsale, I think he's a legend. I think Pete
because
is
Kate,
a legend.
Jeremy's like favorite
she's my #1
person
actress.
of all time.
Yeah. Is that your like if you got to cheat?
The hall pass or whatever?
Yeah, the hall pass. Would that be it?
We're gonna call Tara.
Okay. I know. No, she knows. She knows.
The thing with this hall pass thing is that it would never really happen.
Yeah, right. She's like, please. Okay, yeah, I'll give you that hall pass.
Exactly.
Good luck. Who's your hall pass?
It's I don't want to say his name because I feel like I'm gonna see him and then it's going to.
It's gonna ruin it.
It's fine.
It's gonna ruin
Hugh
it.
Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
I'm not joking. I almost jokingly said, "Is it Hugh Jackman?"
It's Hugh Jackman.
That rightly so. He's like such a fun guy, right?
He's
so
fun.
talented.
He's sexy. He's like older, so it's like a bit of like maturity. Yet it's like I can still have some fun with you. He has muscles, yet he still has a little bit of a bear gut when he doesn't work out. All the things you want in a man.
You really thought he was gonna say Hugh Jackman?
Wait. All the things you want in a man. A beer gut when he doesn't work out. That's my favorite part of it.
I like a good beer gut.
All right. In addition to style and PDA advice, Karamo really opened up about his new book with us as well. The book addresses drug addiction, depression, his suicide attempt, and so much.
Also addresses childhood trauma, anger problems, his unexpected path to fatherhood. There's so much that Karamo unpacks in this book in a very candid way.
We asked Karamo what was most difficult for him to open up about when it came time to actually put pen to paper, and here is what he had to say.
I think it was when I started talking about first my father being abusive to my mother and then me being abusive to my boyfriends. Because most people would never think that I would. The first 3 boyfriends I had, I was physically abusive to them. I was the abuser. And, domestic violence in the LGBT community is a big problem. I mean, like, it's at a higher rate than straight couples.
Not talked about that often.
It's not talked about because no one is talking about it. People aren't trained on it. And so it was a little embarrassing for me to admit, yeah, I came from an abusive home. I picked up that nature. I always knew you shouldn't hit a woman, but what do you do when it's 2 men? And the culture teaches you that men can fight. And so I was embarrassed by that. And luckily, I got to a place where I knew how to use my words and talk through my emotions. And I talk about how to do that in the book. But I was embarrassed that I was so arrogant in hitting people. And so that was hard, but I've grown through it. And I'm happy that people will know how to grow through it too.
I'm really glad he's able to open up about all of that.
Yeah.
All right, Karamo Brown's new book, Karamo, The Story of Embracing Purpose, Healing, and Hope is out now. Check it out. And stay tuned this week for more from the Queer Eye star, where we discuss everything from his struggle with drug addiction to the new season of Queer Eye.
You gave direct instructions to them to tell me. No. But I'm not going to pretend that everything's 100% hunky-dory because I'm not a fake. I'm going. Bye, guys. Please, Lisa.
So I went to Blizzard and I got him to print out all of her texts and all of his texts. She's a f***ing liar.
I can't believe this.
Oh, boy. Some of the drama from tonight's upcoming Real Housewives of Beverly Hills episode. We're here to break it all down with one of the stars at the center of it all, Teddy Mellencamp Ariave. Hi. Teddy, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I love watching you watch and watch all of that play out and those big text messages printed out. Oh my gosh, we're going to talk about that clip and tonight's episode in a little bit. 3 episodes in, dramatic season, you're much more involved. How are you feeling about everything?
You know, I have a clear conscience. It's going to be hard for me to watch tonight. I want to be able to give away the whole story, but I can't. So you're just kind of sitting there like white knuckling it until you get through it.
Yeah, what can you tell us about the text messages and what we're going to see tonight? Are you anxious
I can tell you there's a lot more than what you saw tonight.
Ooh, okay. There you go. You used to be close friends with Lisa Vanderpump. It seems like so far in the show, you're more offended than hurt. Did you feel sadness about losing her as a friend?
I think because I realized it back at Vanderpump Dogs what was happening when Lisa was like, what? I don't say anything. You know, like, I was like.
Good impression, by the way.
I was like, oh, crap. She set me up. So I knew then, so I had time to process it before the Bahamas. And then kind of when everybody else was like, oh, shoot, you know, this makes sense, then it was more anger and frustration than hurt. I was already hurt after Vanderpump Dogs and kind of processed.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's very confusing with everything going on, but who do you think has the most involvement in putting Puppygate out there?
Oh, Lisa, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else, though, that you think is stirring the pot a lot? And like,
well, I think that everybody that works with Lisa, you know, was involved as well. And my hands aren't clean. The information was brought to me on purpose because of my past relationship with Dorit was not good. I was like not leading her fan club. So why come to me? Because I'm the easy choice.
Well, let's talk Lisa.
And I'm a newer housewife.
And you're newer, yeah. Let's talk about Lisa Rinna's involvement in Puppygate, especially what we saw in the last episode. What's the deal there? What do you make of that?
I think she was just kind of painting a clear picture. She had history of something similar happening to her as well. So she's really just narrating what's going on.
Yeah, and that is kind of the voice, isn't it? It's sort of just like a play-by-play of how setting it up. Here's how everything's playing
trying
out.
to figure out like what's actually going on. All right, let's take a look at this moment from last week's episode in the Bahamas.
Elvis is going to bring his cat to my room. Do you have dogs?
No, I got a cat.
Can you bring him in?
I can bring him.
It'll be our little secret. Maybe he already did, and that's why George having an allergic reaction. Is she allergic to cats? I don't know. Should we find out? No, maybe she's allergic to dogs.
Do you think Kyle should take some blame for putting it out there in front of Lisa Rinna?
You know, here's the thing, that Kyle and I were both in an uncomfortable situation because we were already told at Vanderpump Dogs. We have this information. We know that we were being filmed when we were told. Dorit doesn't know that. You realize at a prior time when Lisa was talking to Dorit, she never mentioned that Kyle also knew.
Yeah. It's interesting. By the way, I love that I can just tell you're so anxious to set the record straight with all this.
Because it eats away.
I know,
Could you
right?
imagine being called a liar when you know you're not lying?
I just want to like a live camera of you walking around your house as things are airing. Like, oh my gosh.
No, you should hear me. My husband, I'm like, I want to just tell everything. He's like, you need to tell people to tune in because I mean, it's
That's
really
it's
a long story. And I think the biggest thing is I've owned the things that I've done wrong, and that's how you move on in friendship. Say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
When you look at all that was going down in the Bahamas, did you have any sense that the stakes were high enough to cause this rift between Vanderpump and other women?
No, I would say, I mean, the craziest thing about this year versus last year was you really have no idea what's coming next. It's like, wow, wow, wow. You know, like, it's just, truthfully, it's like, it's unbelievable.
Makes for a great show. I can't imagine keeping it straight in your head.
Oh, well, it's easy to keep the truth straight.
Yeah, okay.
Well, what percentage of the truth do we know about Puppygate, do you think, right now in this moment?
I would say a quarter.
Okay.
If
There's
even.
a whole nother side.
There's a whole nother thing.
You're gonna have a viewing party for that episode. You can finally tell.
I think there's gonna be multiple. You know, I think
It'll slowly trickle
It'll slowly trickle.
Well, that was the next point. Is the rest of the season all evolving out of Puppygate? Do other dramatic lines come out, storylines?
There's so many different things, and also, I mean, I know you're not seeing it right now, but we also had a lot of fun this season.
Is that true?
I swear, last year I really had zero fun. Like I was like really kind of uncomfortable because I didn't know everybody, and like when you don't know everybody, you're kind of just listening and watching, and you're in your own head a little bit. This season, I'm forming like real relationships with people, and we had like real fun. Like we went on a trip with no glam squads. We like all of those types of things that you do with, you know, real friends happen.
Yeah, who from the cast ended up shocking you the most this season? Or maybe you were surprised that you would get along with so well?
You know, Erica and I have really gotten along this season, which last year we didn't, but at the reunion we both said, hey, we're gonna move on from this, and we did. And so that's exciting. I mean, shocking in a not as positive way. I mean, there's a couple. I can't give it all away, guys.
A little tease. What does her name rhyme with?
It's a hard name to rhyme.
Ooh. Rinna.
Well,
Vanna.
Lisa, she rhymes.
Okay. We'll work on that. While we do that math, we got everybody in the control room start rhyming.
It's really hard to rhyme.
Dorit.
Yeah.
Complete. I don't know. Whatever. All right, we'll work on it. Switching gears a bit to this. You were at Andy Cohen's baby shower. Looked like a fun time. Looked like a wild time. Who would you say had the most fun in terms of maybe the drink you drink?
Well, I mean, we all were, I mean, it was a situation.
Okay.
Like, every single one of us, you can't even point fingers in that way. But, I mean, Lisa Rinna, like, held, like, she was, like, when she got the mic and started telling all of us to get on tables, like, it was one of those unbelievable moments that I was like, I have to capture this. And I, like
is this really
did an Insta story, and, like, immediately my husband sent me a text. He's like, you good?
Should I send help? Right.
And he's like, I'm like, babe, I'm so sorry I got home so late. He's like, honey, it was 7:38.
She like told everyone.
That's adulting to the max, isn't it? Like, oh, what time is it? Oh, it's almost 8 p.m.
Yeah, like crazy.
When she told everyone to get on the tables, did you have a moment of that's my friend? Like this, like
I was like, yes. And then I looked back at the guy who owned the restaurant, and I was like, sorry about your luck, buddy.
There we go. A little look at the fun.
Who gets the craziest at these parties?
I mean, this was my first. I'd never experienced anything like this. I kind of thought we were all going to be a little bit stuffy, and everybody was just wild and fun and friendly. Like we weren't being filmed, so like you really were.
That's
just,
what. So you thought. Then there's that. And I love all the different worlds kind of coming together.
I know.
It's really fun, and it honestly like gives you a little bit of peace to know that there's so many other people like in this.
I'm not alone in the drama.
And you're not the craziest. Like there's like all the other.
You're like, wow, phew.
Was there anyone from other franchises that you were really excited to meet?
I mean, excited. I had met a bunch of them before, but I mean, I had so many good conversations. Like I chatted with Tamara and Shannon a lot. I was next to the Dallas girls. Leanne's hilarious. Like, I mean, it was just nonstop. Every single conversation that you had, you're just like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of other Bravo celebrities, you know Jeff Lewis and Gage Edwards. Have you offered them support through their breakup?
I mean, I reached out to Jeff right when I heard, and I just said, like, just so you know, I love you guys. I'm here for you. And in the end, like, whatever is going to make them the happiest and give them the most peace, that's what you want.
Do you have insight into the dynamic there? What led to that moment of splitting?
I don't have any conversations with them about what led to that, but I know that when you have a child and your life changes, it can shift every relationship, and you just you have to work at it. Marriage is work, and sometimes you have to keep working harder, and sometimes you have to pull away. Do what's best for your family.
All right, Teddy, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks, guys.
Congrats on everything. And everyone, make sure to watch tonight's new episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills at 9 p.m. on Bravo.
Until then, you can try to keep doing the rhyming game.
Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
So